Welcome to episode 34 of Excuse Me, I'm Speaking. This podcast is being brought to you by yours truly. It is me, it is she, your favorite podcast host. You can call me Twinkle, call me SheIsTwinkle, or call me Antoinette. As long as you're calling my name, that's all that matters to me. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, I must say 2024 is all about consistency for me. That being said, I had to hop on here and speak on some things because the block is hot right now. All right, there's a lot of chatter out there on the internet, and it is only about one subject in particular. But before I get into that subject, let me start this off with a quick question of the day. So, the question of the day for today is, who are your top three comedians, dead or alive? So for me, that is so easy. Starting with number one, Paul Mooney. If y'all have not seen Paul Mooney's stand up comedy specials, he is hands down the greatest comedian of all time. I have heard from others that he used to write for Richard Pryor, and people love Richard Pryor. I just personally never watched any of his stand up. However, Paul Mooney, he is the most controversial comedian I have ever heard in my life. And he tells a lot of truth in his jokes. They're his truth, but he makes people wildly uncomfortable. But it is the funniest thing ever. And he is not scared to say exactly what he has to say. And I think that's why I really like his comedy because it's authentic. Unfortunately, I was not able to see him in person while he was living. But even still, I will watch any special of his and roll on the floor laughing. He is number one. So, following up right behind him would be number two, Katt Williams, the funniest living comedian of all time, hands down. Fight me. And number three would be Mike Epps. Yeah, Mike Epps reminds me of the naturally funny family member that you just can't wait to run into at the family function, the one that cracks jokes on everybody, the one that is funny and is not even trying to be funny. They're just being themselves. That is Mike Epps. And I love his comedy, whether it's in movies, it's stand up. He is just a naturally funny guy. So those are my top three: Paul Mooney, Katt Williams, and Mike Epps in that order. Let me know y'all answers to today's question of the day. Hey, maybe I have some comedians out there I've never even heard of, and I can go and look up their work. So send me your responses, either comment below on YouTube, or if you're listening to this, you can always send me your answers on Instagram at SheIsTwinkle1, comment on a picture or DM me. It would be very much so appreciated. All right. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's jump into the real reason why we're here. Without further ado, let's talk about it. Katt Williams. Katt Williams recently appeared on Shannon Sharpe's podcast titled Club Shay Shay, and he caught the attention of everybody. Fox News is talking about this podcast. Sportscasters are talking about this podcast. All the comedians, rappers, actors, everybody. This podcast was 2 hours and 46 minutes long. And when I tell you, I watched every single second of it, I've watched it twice. It gave me my entire life. If you know Katt Williams and his history, he does not hold back. He has watched several comedians show up to Shannon Sharpe's podcast, and they have mentioned his name. And in his opinion, they did not tell the truth. So, in his eyes, he was there to expose the truth. Shannon Sharpe did not know what he was in for. I don't think anybody could have been prepared for Katt Williams in this interview. He totally took over and he said exactly how he felt about Rickey Smiley, Cedric the Entertainer, Steve Harvey, Faison Love. He brought up Diddy and TD Jakes. Now, Shannon Sharpe wouldn't let him go any further, but he talked about Harvey Weinstein. He exposed what really happens in the industry and the whole idea of the casting couch and people hating on him and trying to spread lies about him. Meanwhile, he has collected information on them over the years, and that is why they don't really come for him, because he can spill the beans because he knows they're real tea. When I tell you there were so many shock value moments in this interview, And at the same time, he didn't show up on there as a hater. He also bigged up a lot of comedians that he respects and upcoming comedians such as Jess Hilarious, Chico Bean, Carlos, DC Young Fly, Desi Banks. He loves Wanda Sykes. He loves DL Hughley. He really rode for Bernie Mac in this interview and keeping his legacy alive and pulling out truths about other comedians that used to hate on him. He talked about jokes of his that were stolen. He bigged up Mark Curry. He was just going and going and going for nearly 3 hours, and I enjoyed every minute of it. But not just me. At this point, that interview of Katt Williams has been up for 5 days. When I checked earlier today, it already has 35 million views. That is crazy. That is unheard of. That is the most popular video interview podcast on Club Shay Shay's channel. All of the comedians that he spoke on, all of them also had podcast interviews on Club Shay Shay's channel. None of them are even close in numbers to Katt Williams' interview. So a lot of them, they have responded to him since then on social media. And to me, because he also talked about Ludacris as well, but to me, I felt like all of their responses were weak. That's just my opinion. If somebody talks about you and questions your moral values and your character, and they say they know the truth about you and they know that you're a thief and you steal jokes and they give examples of it and they say that you basically sold your soul, why are you promoting your movies? Kevin Hart was one of them that he clapped back at Kevin Hart because Kevin Hart had something to say about him. None of them came back with anything vicious enough to even come close to Katt Williams' clapback. None of them. And I thought that that was very telling. The fact that he referred to a lot of their wives as ugly face, and y'all didn't even defend your wives, that is crazy to me. Because if I was any of those comedians' wife, I'd be like, I don't care about anything else he said. You didn't even defend me? Are you crazy? It would be a problem in the home base. I'm just saying. Now, in my opinion, I feel as though if you weren't going to respond back with receipts or you weren't going to respond back and clear up any of the accusations or all of the accusations, you just shouldn't have responded at all. All of them took that time to just simply promote what they were currently working on. And to say that Katt Williams was crazy or he's on drugs, which Katt Williams then went a step further to say, I have never been on a hard drug. You can't find anybody that sold drugs to me. Of course, they're going to try to assassinate my character, but when we're in person, none of them have anything to say to me. So I think that personally, if you weren't going to respond with the same savage nature, then you just shouldn't have responded at all because it made it feel like everything that he said had to have been true. Now, one person who hasn't responded at this point as of January 8th is Steve Harvey, which is very strange because lately, within these past few months, Steve Harvey has responded to every naysayer and critic that had something to say about his career and specifically his wife and his marriage and his relationship. But at this point, Steve Harvey has not responded. However, social media is going to do the research, and they have found several clips of Steve Harvey's jokes in which he stole them from Katt Williams. It's a lot to take in. I don't know. I think that if I were one of those comedians, I would take the route that Steve Harvey is taking. I just wouldn't say anything back because the fact that y'all are giving these weak responses, it's making you look worse. It's better to not say anything and just let the news cycle die down. That's just my opinion. Now, on the flip side of all of this, there were a lot of people on social media, from celebrities to upcoming comedians to your everyday person, that were speaking up and they were confirming his character values, being that he's such an upstanding guy and how he supported them throughout the years. Katt Williams has put a lot of money in a lot of people's pockets, whether it was somebody that he brought on the tour with him or it was somebody like Little Boosie when he first got out of jail. Katt Williams invited him to one of his shows, had him a front row seat, and then afterwards got an envelope to him, and that envelope had $15,000 in it. And that was just to show his support. There were other comedians out there saying Katt Williams gave them $3,000, them $1,000, $5,000. all kinds of people. Katt Williams putting other people in movies. He has always been one to support others. And that's another thing that he was saying in his interview, is that he likes to give back and to sow good seeds. He doesn't have bad intentions. Why would you talk about somebody like him who he has adopted 7 children, 7 Black children, raising them on his own, did not have a wife, and also gives back to whatever city that he's in. He said he'll give to the homeless population in their city. He will help upcoming comedians, all of those different things. He is a good, upstanding guy. You don't hear a lot of bad stories about him. You have heard a lot of news reports of him going to jail, but that's simply because he's been picked on, because he never gets convicted of anything and he gets out of jail immediately. I think that Katt Williams is one that we definitely have to support him, watch his shows on Netflix, keep him lifted up, because there is not a lot out there like Katt Williams. I personally like him because he is not scared to go against the status quo. He is going to speak his truth no matter what. Now, it was a funny special because it's the way that Katt Williams says things, and he's very unapologetic about it. And a lot of people say that there's truth in every joke. And that is like the embodiment of Katt Williams. A lot of times I say he's not actually telling a joke, he's just telling the truth, but it's the way that he's saying it. He's giving you commentary on a certain subject from his perspective, and you laugh about it. And sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he just said that. But it's the truth. And the truth is kind of funny sometimes. And it's the way that he says it. I do think that he is hands down a comedic genius, and he is one of the most intellectual celebrities that are out there living at this point in our generation. So kudos to Katt Williams. I know personally, I just talked to a cousin of mine the other day. She helped me to remember one of our family members actually had a run-in with Katt Williams, and it was an aunt of mine. She was shopping in the mall one day, and I don't know if she was in Kansas City or she was on vacation, but she was in the perfume section and she was looking at the perfume. And there's this guy that she met that was there. He was really short, but he had beautiful hair, and he was so nice to her and just having conversation with her. And at the end of their conversation, he ended up purchasing the perfume for her. And she thought, oh, that's so nice. This random stranger, this random guy. Fast forward a few years later, she's watching TV and she sees this comedian on TV, and she's able to put two and two together, and she realized, oh my gosh, I didn't know that I was talking to a celebrity. That's Katt Williams. I had no idea who he was at the time, but that's the guy that bought me the perfume, and he was so nice to me. And so I can see a lot of these celebrities out there talking about their angel moments with Katt Williams, but to actually know a family member of mine that actually experienced one of those gifting moments with Katt Williams as well, that definitely speaks to his character. And he had no idea who she was. He wasn't trying to date her or anything. He just wanted to do something nice. And I think when you sow good seeds, good comes back to you. I just wanted to share that because I remember that, and that was so cool to me. Oh, if you haven't seen the interview, definitely go and watch it. It is every bit of worth it. I think he had a lot to say because he brought up Diddy and TD Jakes twice, and Shannon Sharpe quickly made sure that he changed the topic and asked a question so that Katt Williams wouldn't go into detail. I personally wanted to hear all of the tea, because if he on here talking, just let him talk, because we want to know what's going on. I am here for a part two. If they wanted to do a part two, I think that the numbers will be exponential. What would be even better than a part two would be a collaboration podcast or interview with Katt Williams and Monique. Now, that would be a tea session that we didn't realize we needed. That would be everything. Y'all, let's make that happen. I'm hopeful, okay? Speaking of Monique, I had to bring up Monique because a few years back, if y'all remember, Monique was all in the media. She was talking about Oprah. She was talking about unfair pay. She was talking about the powers that be in Hollywood and how they blackballed her, including Lee Daniels and Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey, and how she said no to them and her career just went downhill from there, and how she wasn't paid enough money in Hollywood, how basically they were trying to take advantage of her, having her go on a press tour for the movie Precious that she did, but they weren't trying to pay her more money for it. I had to bring that up because it was very similar to Taraji P. Henson's story that I recently talked about on my last podcast, how she started crying on an interview because she was speaking about the unfair pay that she's received in Hollywood for years, how she hasn't had an increase in pay since 2014. Now, I say that to say this. Taraji P. Henson was going through the exact same thing as Monique back when Monique was complaining about it publicly, and she was receiving a lot of public ridicule over it. But here's another Black actress, major in Hollywood, who was going through the exact same thing that didn't say anything in support of Monique at the time. Yeah, there is power in numbers. And so that kind of disappointed me and Taraji a little bit, looking back on it, to know that she was going through the exact same thing, and instead you listen to Monique and you watch her just drown because she had no public support from any of her fellow Black actresses out there. If you would have just spoke up, then that could have encouraged the next Black actress to speak up, and the next Black actress. That is no different from whether you're in the same family or you're in the same workplace or the same group or organization, and you might have a concern or a complaint or a grievance about something that is occurring that needs change. And you know that others feel the exact same way, but they let you stand out there on the ledge by yourself and they just watch because they feel the same way, but they don't want to put themselves out there. Yeah, we're never going to get ahead if you feel a way and you don't speak on it. If you unify together and speak on it, that's when a change will come. But if it's just one person that's out there talking, then it's easy for that one person to look crazy and for them to get X'd out, for them to get fired, for them to be ostracized, isolated, all of that. I hope that this right here is even a learning lesson for everybody, especially in Hollywood, because if Taraji would have spoke up with Monique at that time, then maybe her pay would have increased by then. And maybe in 2023, she wouldn't be crying about something that could have been solved all the way back years ago when Monique was complaining about it. Yeah, there is power in numbers. So I had to say that part. But last and totally not least, I have to shift gears and talk about a really interesting story that I saw come out in the recent news cycle. Halle Bailey, which Halle Bailey was in The Color Purple. She played the young version of Nettie, so Celie's sister. She was in the new version of The Color Purple. Now, her personal story in real life is very interesting because she is in a relationship with DDG. DDG is a YouTuber as well as a rapper, I believe. Her and DDG have been in a relationship and they're always very lovey dovey when you see them on social media. She also had the role of the Little Mermaid when that was remade recently, and there's a Black mermaid, and people were up in arms about that. Well, all this time that she's been working on The Color Purple, she has been attending public events. She has been on live on social media with her boyfriend DDG. She has been having a secret pregnancy. And I was so shocked. I don't know how you go 9 months and hide an entire pregnancy and you're a celebrity. Nobody caught a sneak peek picture. That was impressive. So, y'all, right at the end of 2023, she was not at the premiere of The Color Purple, and that is because she had just had her baby boy, and his name is Halo. I've never seen that happen. I've never seen an actress be able to hide their entire pregnancy. I've never seen a person, unless they went away to another town, moved to another state, unless they're not on social media at all, hide an entire pregnancy. So I just want to know, like, how do y'all feel about that? Because celebrities give us an exclusive look into their lives on social media all the time. If your favorite singer, actress, celebrity hid an entire pregnancy. Do you feel some type of way? A lot of us like for celebrities to share in on their special moments with us. We didn't see any pregnancy pictures, none of that. But I do understand from her point of view hiding the pregnancy. And if you've ever been pregnant before or been around a pregnant person, pregnancy features are real. People get ridiculed for it, even though it's something that you can't help because your body is expanding and growing because of this living being inside of you. So I do understand her hiding the pregnancy. It is very impressive that she was successfully able to do that and to have a peaceful pregnancy. I understand why she did it, but I'm just a little shocked. But congratulations to the happy couple. Y'all, what if y'all favorite celebrity does it next? What if she has started a trend and all of them start to do it? Interesting. Enough of that. I gotta wrap up the show with some really quick wrap ups. Let me start with Cardi B and Offset. I talked about them on the last podcast, maybe even the podcast before. And I have to say this, I will never in life talk about their relationship again on this podcast because they are such a roller coaster. They are so up and down. By the time I published my last podcast episode, they were already back together. Cardi B did all that complaining. Meanwhile, she performed on New Year's Eve. They were in the same club and she said, I got my man back, y'all. And we together and we done hooked up and that's my boo and yada yada. Girl, take their phone. I told you, they should not even complain. That is the most toxic relationship ever. I don't even care. She can say they're getting a divorce. She can even file the papers, and I still don't believe it. Y'all, I guess if they like it, I love it, but that's a little too much for me. All right, y'all. So they back together. They wasn't never not together, I guess. It was just, who they give me a headache. But anywho, moving on to a couple that I had no idea they were a couple. Lisa Bonet has officially filed for divorce from Jason Momoa after being separated for 2 years. Now, let me refresh y'all memory on who these people are. Lisa Bonet is Denise Huxtable from The Cosby Show. Remember, she's like the light skinned, mixed looking older sister from The Cosby Show, which was always very weird to me because Cliff and Claire Huxtable were both brown skin and the rest of their kids were brown skin. And then you have Denise Huxtable, who looked every bit of mixed because I believe she might actually be mixed in real life. She just didn't look like she would be their kid at all. Is it just me? I was really confused as a little kid watching The Cosby Show. Like, she doesn't look like them at all, but okay, whatever. But anywho, she has been married to Jason Momoa, which Jason Momoa is Aquaman. Who knew? I was like, okay. Jason Momoa got a thing for black girls. Okay, okay. Now that I find out they're a couple, they're getting a divorce. But I didn't even know they were married. So, yeah, Lisa Bonet was also previously married to Lenny Kravitz. She has a daughter with Lenny Kravitz and with Jason Momoa. If you go and look up a picture of her, I had to give her a shout out in this because she is all of 56 years old and black does not crack. She looks beautiful still to this day. Shout out to Lisa Bonet and whatever skin regimen she has going on. But yes, unfortunately, I had to report the news. She has filed for divorce from somebody that I didn't even realize she was married to. Let me wrap up this quick show with a quote of the day. And the quote of the day is so fitting. It is by a man by the name of Simon Sinek. The quote is, authenticity is more than speaking. Authenticity is also about doing. Every decision we make says something about who we are. I thought that that was so perfect because it goes along with the quote, what's done in the dark will always come to light. Actions speak louder than words. I think we should all be very intentional, not only with our words, but also with our actions, because that is definitely a reflection of who you are or who you are becoming. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I know it was quick, it was short, but I had to get on here and give y'all something. As usual, you can follow me on Instagram at SheIsTwinkle1, also on YouTube at SheIsTwinkle, and I can't wait to come back for another episode of Excuse Me, I'm Speaking. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I love you all. Bye-bye.